Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me, as always, are my co-hosts Nick Martin and Tim Kalinowski. And together, the three of us will break down the upcoming 10-game slate on Tuesday evening. We'll be with you as well on Wednesday morning and Thursday morning to break down those slates too. But as we often do when we have sizable nights of hockey, we like to start with our favorite underdog picks. Nick and I, we're on the same one here. So I'll let you get it started, Nick.
Yeah, I don't think you need to be a bit of a Rangers hater, like Leboff maybe is, to like the Wings here. This is a big number for a team that's played pretty well. If you're getting anything better than plus 150, I think it's a great bet. The Rangers aren't going to have Adam Fox. That's the biggest needle mover out of all their skaters. I think that's the first thing we say here. I don't really want to knock the Rangers too much. They've played really well. The process looks good. They've defended really well. And overall, the process has been pretty impressive. The Wild game was horrific, which is I did think it was a pretty bad spot for them, but it is kind of interesting because without Fox, it was pretty heinous. So I thought they were really, really lucky to get a point out of that game. I think that it was a tough look without Fox, the way that it went there. And there's also the possibility that Shesterkin might end up sitting here, which would be a huge win. I'm handicapping it, expecting him to play and looking at it as a bonus if he doesn't at this price. But if he doesn't, I don't see how anything holds longer than plus 140, right? So I think we're already getting a great number to jump on the Wings. And yeah, handicap's pretty simple. It just looks too long. I don't think you really have to knock the Rangers play here to think this is a great price.
Yeah, the Wings sitting 154 right now on the road. And like you said, it's the Adam Fox effect is, I think, going to be real. When you look at that defense core, he's got a skill set that none of them really have. You could say K'Andre Miller and Eric Gustafsson can move the puck, but nobody's coming close to what Fox can do at all. Runs a great power play. Power play should still be fine. But then you also lose Philip Hedl, who's a very important pivot for them. And like you said, I don't think Shesterkin's going to play on Tuesday, just from what I'm hearing. And I think that they'll just be out of abundance of caution with him in the early going. So this line will move. Like, they have Louis Domingue up. I don't think that Louis Domingue would still be up for practices if there was a chance that, it was probable that Shesterkin would start. But we'll see. Nonetheless, like you said, the Wings are playing respectably. The Rangers are really good, but with the Rangers having some injury issues here, I think it's a really good number on the Red Wings.
Tim, yeah, and also, sorry, before we just pass off this, there is the possibility Larkin sits. I still think taking this number now is the move. Regardless, if that happens, I think you still like the price. And then the other quick note, it's a little minor, but I don't like Blake Wheeler on the top line either.
Yeah.
That moves this a hair in the right direction for us too. Like, it's just not a good two-way player anymore. I don't see it. So
it does feel like I know that there's injuries and stuff going on, but it does feel like a message from the staff. Like, yeah, you're going to have to show something here or else maybe some.
Well, I've seen how Lavi goes, though. He'll probably do
that's true.
Nothing and get a 5-game leash there with his veteran status.
Tim, any thoughts on Wings and Rangers before we move on to your dog?
Yeah, I'm convinced. Long and short of it is the number is just a little too long and kind of like a roll of the dice with the whole Shesterkin situation. So why not?
Why not? And what are you backing as your favorite pooch Tuesday night?
Yeah, I like a lot of you guys went the Wings route. I kind of like a lot of the favorites on this board, but I'm going to land here on Buffalo plus 170 range here. And for me, this is kind of a similar cap to your guys' Wings handicap in that I just think this number is a little too long for Carolina. This is the classic Carolina, a bit of a roadie up north, 3 games. They're coming back home. I just don't see as big of a difference in these two teams that would reflect the -205 for Carolina. I'm wondering how you guys feel. I mean, part of Buffalo struggled immensely on the power play this season. They did get a power play goal against Toronto on Saturday night, but I think if you listen to any of the media coverage up north, they would tell you it has more to do with Toronto than it does Buffalo. But I think that's just par for the course. If Buffalo can capitalize on the power play, Carolina is a bottom half of the league in power play and penalty kill percentage. So I'm hoping Buffalo can maybe get a couple freebies on the power play. And again, the number's just a little too long for me. I wonder what you guys think about this.
Yeah, I think I'm getting pretty close on the Sabres here. I say this a lot on our soccer podcast. There are going to be some teams in the Premier League who just will be at big numbers because of who they're playing. And you almost just want to close your eyes and bet them no matter what, like teams like Brentford and Brighton before the market kind of caught on to them. And the Sabres, I think you can put into that bucket where if you're going to give me plus 170 on Buffalo, almost no matter who they're playing, I bet them against the Leafs the other night on the second half of a back-to-back. And the number was bigger than this, but I'm just always going to be tempted because we know that the Sabres have a really high ceiling. The Dylan Cousins thing is a little scary, but other than that, yeah, I tend to lean in your direction here. What about you, Nick?
I think I'll just be looking at the prop market and trying to pick out my Kane that I think has the best number, because it just seems like one where Carolina is going to spend a ton of time in the offensive zone. I agree on the Buffalo. I think there might be more value there. The goaltending situation is pretty shaky with Carolina, but we're seeing like just classic Carolina here, like just so much offensive zone time and just pouring everything at the net. I think it's been
I was there. I was in the building for it on Saturday night. 100 shot attempts against the Isles.
100 shot attempts from not great areas, and it just seems like one of those ones where I do expect them to own the puck versus Buffalo. But yeah, I think the number's there if you want to bet on the Sabres.
And also too, to put a bow on that, I think a lot of Carolina's the numbers that get spit out here have a lot to do with that sort of power rating from the numbers they put up, and just a billion shots on goal. I think that is friendly to the power rating, and but it's not like they win every game 5-1, so that's why it's a gamble here.
Well, and like compared to other years when they've been rated so highly and like they are winning regular season games, I think the defensive play is shakier, right? And the goaltending is probably shakier than it has been at any point, really, which is showing more because they're not defending the same. But like, I still think they're really good, but probably it's not quite looking like vintage Carolina right now, like we're used to seeing. So it's probably shaky enough, or shaking it a bit.
Freddie Anderson on the sidelines for a while with a blood clotting issue. So they brought in Yaro Halak for PTO. So they'll probably still ride with 3 goalies with Halak, Kuchetkov, and Ranta, I'm guessing. Anyway, so that's Sabres and Wings as our favorite dogs. We'll go on to the big board now. We'll start at UBS Arena. I will not be at this game, so you can adjust your numbers. I have a wild record this season when I'm at Islander game, 2-0-3. Weird. The Wild are plus 110 on the road. Isles minus 130, over under 6.5. It does sound like Semyon Varlamov's going to get the start over Sorokin. Varlamov's been amazing. He's coming off of back-to-back shutouts. The Wild are coming off arguably their best performance of the season in that 4-3 shootout victory against the Rangers, in which they fell behind 5-4, shootout win, and in which they fell behind 3-0 very unluckily, then just dominated, still found a way to choke the lead away. And I think that's an important note here, is that like even in their best game, they still found a way to be taken overtime. The Wild just haven't been convincing. I think the line here is probably about right. Islanders as just a ordinary home favorite here. You would adjust for home ice, and these two teams would basically be a coin flip on neutral ice. Bo Horvat injury, I think, does loom large for the Islanders if he's out. Scott Mayfield missed practice too. So some lineup concerns. I just think it looks right. And if Horvat is out, I would, if you can find a long number on Oliver Wahlstrom as an anytime goal scorer, that'd be the one guy who I think could fly under the radar. He hasn't been all that impressive this season, but he'll have a really good spot next to Barzal, and he'll likely take Horvat's spot on the power play. Not that the Islanders are very good on that in that regard. Nick, Wild and Islanders.
Yeah, I like the over 5.5 quite a bit, actually. I was pretty surprised when I looked at this. It's two teams that I think are probably known a little bit for being in like under teams, but the Islanders really aren't defending very well. I think you can attest to that.
No,
They've had
they're not.
tough schedule, but like
Yeah,
the goalies aren't going to play better than they are. And
they're also only playing 5 defensemen because they won't.
And Horvat's,
he won't play.
probably their best defensive forward, right?
Yeah.
So like that hurts. And then you look at the Wild right now, and like a total of 5.5 seems pretty hard to pass on. So unless you're like talking about a vintage kind of Islanders defensive performance, it just seems like this should be a number of 6 to me. So I think if you're getting 5.5, over is a good bet. And I think the Wild are a solid bet too. Like they've been shaky, but if you're getting past plus 110, that seems like a good number. They did get Boldy back. He didn't have his best game, but there's that. I think the forward core is looking good. Marco Rossi looks awesome, which is a really fun story for the Wild. Defensively, like we talked about, not kind of at the same level we're used to seeing. But yeah, I think the over is my top ranked play, and then don't mind the Wild at all either.
Anything for you here, Tim?
Yeah, what if I told you that there's only one team in the NHL that is allowing more shots allowed per game than the New York Islanders, and that is the San Jose Sharks. So so I guess we'll call them an AHL team, and we'll just bump the Islanders to the worst NHL team per that metric. The Wild actually have been scoring too, which is I think before the season started and our awards preview, we talked about how we would think that the Wild would have trouble scoring, but the Wild are scoring. And that probably bodes well, Nick, for your over pick. But I'm going to go with the Wild here because, Leboff, you said it's about priced right. And then the Islanders kind of variance or low variance with the way they play. To me, it's like, I'll take the plus money and a team that plays a whole lot of coin flips. So that's how I land on Wild there.
Yeah, weird stuff from the Islanders. They did this last year. I'll say it again. I've said it a couple times where they're actually generating like top 10, top 5 in terms of like high danger chances at 5-on-5, but they're giving up a ton the other way. And yeah, without they played basically every game this season without either Pelech or Mayfield now. So the defense just hasn't been up to snuff, and we're seeing Pollock and Romanov and Dobson play 20 plus, 25 plus. It's a little bit of a mess.
Shows you how good the goaltending is.
The goalies are so good. Kraken and Coyotes up next. Nick, you will be in the building for this one. That's beautiful. Yep. He'll be at the Mullet to see Seattle's a -115 favorite, Coyotes -105, and a total of 6.5. So we got to start with you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's Coyotes or nothing, but I think I don't know. I don't look the way I had dreamed of it. It's funny when we talked about this when I first gotten these tickets, predicted that it would be a pick'em, and I think it'll get there because I think people are going to push the Coyotes there. Their process still looks really good. But I think you can, I mean, honestly, I think it's a pretty good number. It's just scary the way they're losing some of these games. Yeah. I think like it's some of the ones like
they can't hold leads.
Yeah. Like if I had either scoring and they're blowing leads, and we thought they'd be good to hold leads and win these, games they're supposed to win, these hard-nosed games, and not like get gifted 2-goal leads and blow them and 4-1 leads. So it's kind of been uncharacteristic of what we expected, I think, so far, and they're becoming a bit of a weird team to handicap as a result. One thing I'll watch, I think it was just this game script, but they were putting Pooley on the top line at the end of that Jets game. Might have just been trying to chase goals and knowing that's their best combination, but I think that'd be something to watch if he ends up there. Could be a good time to play Cooley props. I mean, I'm going to be reaching to find some extra plays here, I think, just given my hype to go watch this one, but I think Coyotes are pass, maybe Cooley props if he gets up on the top line.
Yeah, I like the Coyotes actually still at this number. The one thing I will, so a lot of time we bet them a ton last year. I did especially, and to pretty good success, but you were betting on a team as an underdog. So the formula changes when the price is shortened. And like you said, a team that is good enough to get out to leads but can't hold them. It does maybe show a little bit of that. You called it like the art of winning, I think, last week, Nick, and maybe that's what they're missing at the moment. This is still a young team, and it's also the goaltending hasn't been up to the standards we expected. And so
kind of struggling.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing is like we betting on Vejmelka as an underdog was a great formula because the guy could just absolutely stonewall a team, and as a 2+220 underdog, that's great. But when you're laying like -130 on Arizona at times this year, he could also put up a dud. That's what he's shown us, and that's when the equation gets a little more frightening. Nonetheless, I still think that they.
I should note here quick too, Ingram is going to play.
And like, do you trust him?
It's good.
I think it's the same formula too. Like with him.
I mean, I'd kind of rather trust him. Like Vejmelka's giving up like such soft goals that I'm like, because they're playing pretty well. Like their underlying results are pretty good, and I think when we look back at all the games, that seems fair. The Jets one, maybe the worst.
Maybe a little bit more 5-on-5 scoring would be nice too. But like, I've got no problems with like the team as a whole, big picture. It's like we just got to kind of we do have to get used to the new formula with the Coyotes that they're a juggernaut now. So they're not the scrappy little. They're not the scrappy underdog. They do.
To see their salt there.
Tim, what do you think about Coyotes and Kraken?
Well, this is like when they go through a panel and it's like former NHLers on the panel and they just pick the team that they used to play for because so that's how I feel with the Yotes. I wrote in our notes, are we serious? Is this even a question? But this is and you kind of alluded to it, Lieboff. This is about as like ugly of a situation, as like bad of a spot to back Arizona, in my opinion, if you look at it through the Seattle lens. Like I was banging the drum of how tough Seattle's schedule was to start the season. And then now you get Arizona here. They just lost to freaking Calgary. So now you get Arizona here. And if you look ahead for the Kraken, they go Colorado, Edmonton, their next 4 games. So for this team, it's like we need to get one when we can get one. So I expect a real good effort here from Seattle. I think that, it's kind of a back against the wall type situation if you just look ahead with the schedule. And Arizona, as much as we love them, they should be like, it's hard to back them when they're not a little bit longer here. This is like you said, it's easier to back them when we're getting a consistent dog price every night that we like. I look at this and I think there's some value on Seattle, but again, this is my NHL on the panel thing in lean Yotes, probably bet Yotes.
Man, we love this team. It's gonna be tough in a couple of years when they're really, really good, and we despise them.
Isn't that bizarre though about Seattle though? Like this schedule, like you pull the schedule up, it's freaking brutal. Like
that's what I was gonna say too. Is like that's part of my thinking here is on like not loving the Yotes. I actually like the Kraken. We've talked about it. They've had such a hard schedule, and they're playing reasonably well. They're kind of doing the exact opposite of last year. This can't finish.
Just don't finish, yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's a fair take, I'd say.
Speaking of can't finish, the Calgary Flames hosting the Nashville Predators. Flames -140 at home. Preds traveling +120, and the over/under here is 6. I lean towards Nashville. I know we're a little on opposite sides here, Nick. I think that as long as Saros is going, you're getting a huge edge in goal. You're getting a team that is thus far putting up better numbers, both offensively and defensively, than we expected in Nashville. You could trust the structure, and I can't trust this Flames team at even this kind of price, even if they're at home. So as long as Saros is going, I feel pretty comfortable betting Nashville at +120.
I think this is a great spot to go back to a bet that I was pissed off didn't get to run on Saturday because they sat Saros late.
Yeah.
And that was Saros to go over 29.5 saves. Hopefully it'll be 28.5 here. I think that could be a really good spot for it here because Calgary keeps just pouring the shots on. The Preds are giving up a lot of shots, and I think everything sets up well for this to be another spot like that. And it's kind of interesting. The Preds are playing pretty up-tempo hockey. Like if you look at the underlying numbers, they're generating quite a few chances, but they're actually not defending real well.
Yep.
Which is kind of interesting. And this sets up well for that. I liked the Flames. I was happy that it worked out the way it did on Saturday, where I actually passed on them for once because I've made the conclusion I'm not betting on them this year. And then when they went down after a period, I thought it was there and it worked out. They're still playing, like I get sucked in because I thought that Stars game, they were excellent. And I almost think they would have got more credit if people hadn't so entirely turned that this team is done and washed, and they had a really good performance. And then I felt the Kraken game, they looked good. They're getting a bit of a spark from Zary. Who knows if that holds, but they need anything they can get offensively. And I love the way the blue line plays. And then the other thing is too, like Rasmus Andersson is a game changer for them. And he was out of the picture when they had that string of losses that really seemed to write them off. So I think they'll control pretty well in this one. It doesn't typically matter for them, but that's why I think maybe the Saros look is a good thing to keep your eye on.
Tim?
Well, you said that Nashville was they allow a ton of chances, but so does Calgary. I am in the camp that Calgary's done. And so as long as I know I'm getting Saros here, I will be betting Nashville at a plus money price. I cannot believe this in this Calgary team. I'm so done with them. Done.
As a side note too, with Calgary and Nashville, with Nashville, it's not twice, right, that we've seen them pull the rug out on us with a surprise Lankinen start. In like the past 2 weeks, so maybe
because then Lankinen just cruised over the saves prop.
Yeah,
just shit that didn't work out once he said.
I wonder if Saros is dealing with something that they're just not saying, because
Lankinen's good too.
Lankinen's fine.
He's a top 5 backup, is he not? If we counted it out, he's pretty damn good last year.
Nowhere close to Varlamov. That's for sure.
He's not a backup. He's really not. He should be a starter.
There's some teams that would kill for him, but
and Kadri, like what it's so bad. It's so bad. I actually wanted to clip. I kind of want to start doing these. If you're interested in them, let me know on Twitter. I think there was one play that was one of the most zero IQ plays I've ever seen in my life versus the Kraken. There was the easiest it was a 3-on-2. All he had to do was gain the zone and play Zary as the high guy. Like it was so obvious. And he tried to dangle twice through the defender's tripod. And it was like, what the fuck? Like, if I was I couldn't imagine coaching that guy right now and knowing you're paying him $7.5 million. It's bad.
Film school, maybe.
Tell us how you really feel.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. But I mean, the point I was making with the Predators is that they're now. I feel like the last thing I would have expected out of this team was for them to be like a surprise goalie start team. They just were Saros, very clear when he was not going to start. So that is something just to keep in mind as when betting Predators games going forward. Penguins and Ducks. Penguins got right in the ultimate get right spot over the weekend, hanging a 10 spot on the Sharks, which rarely happens. Pittsburgh -162. The Red Hot Ducks, 6 wins in a row, just beat Vegas to give them their first regulation loss. The Ducks are +136, and the over under here is 6.5. The kind of the movement between when we saw these two teams play the last time is pretty nuts. But I almost lean towards Pittsburgh here, and they have the potential to just absolutely stomp a team if they do finish like we saw the other night. But at the same time, like the Ducks are playing well enough to hang around, and I just don't trust this Penguins team not to make the mistakes that would warrant me betting them at this price, Nick.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the Ducks, I'm not sold. They're a really fun story. Did they not do exactly this like Drysdale's first year? I'm pretty sure if I look it up, they were literally like at exactly this mark. I think it's the same thing. Like they're 4th in expected goals for percentage. I don't think they're that bad, but like they do seem, I saw a couple different models had them the most goals above expected. That seems kind of fair. Like I haven't watched them that often, thought they were like really good.
Yeah, it's fun. And they're getting nothing from Zegras really. So
yeah. And Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think they're going to be a good team to fade. I could see myself being big on fading them Friday versus Philly because I
And
saw
and
Philly playing really good in that
and what
game.
and what about the weekend game? You've already been talking about it. The Sunday game.
Yes, I could see. Well, hopefully, who knows where the numbers will be, but I could see the Sharks getting their win in that game because I still, at some point, it's going to get ridiculous enough. With that said, I think nothing, I felt like almost I lost more money than I've ever lost on a bet by just not betting on the Penguins Saturday, and
I
I'm
know.
seeing every single person just crushed it.
Just one of
Everyone
those is one of those situations where
feels like
it
losing
just
just by
you
being
you
a Muppet and overthinking it.
yeah, exactly. You there are just times where you'll talk to people who aren't in the weeds with betting like we are, and they'll say like, "Oh my God, this is just the immortal lock of the century," or whatever. They say stupid betting cliches, and every once in a while one comes around where you should just do it.
Yeah.
You should just do it,
They
and that
come
was
around with
the one.
10. And the other
Yeah.
thing is we talked about, I honestly think like it was after 3 games, like when we talked about the Bruins game, that I was saying I thought this Sharks team could be historically bad. I haven't followed up on that at all. And everyone
No,
else is
no, because
just
we're
Jeff
losers. We're
Bezos
losers.
now.
Uh,
Yeah.
Tim, Pens and
I,
Ducks.
I I think this is priced pretty right. Comes down to who you think Pittsburgh is. It's Pittsburgh just is this just a tough start to the season? Because Anaheim, I think you laid it out nicely in that we might have seen this movie before. They're good, but they're not this good. And I think in times past, we would see Pittsburgh laying a big number here, but Pittsburgh has just been, too unpredictable. I have a really hard time. That's why it's kind of a pass for me. I want to take the Pittsburgh I feel like at a discount to like classic Pittsburgh teams, but I just can't get behind this team right now.
Tim, something just came across my desk right now as I pulled up FanDuel.
Yeah.
Uh, the Ducks or the Sharks are plus 640. They put up a prop specifically on when their first regular season win will be. Who knows? I'm actually like, so the Ducks game is plus 640 though, and I think that's pretty decent. It's the Flyers, the Oilers, the Knights, and then they play the Ducks Sunday.
Oh Lord.
That's a pretty fun little look, I think.
There you go.
And yeah, I think the Ducks, the one interesting note too, like Cronin has got to be the biggest coaching upgrade we've seen in years because Aikens had no clue. Like their defensive zone structure was just horrific. So there is that. I get that. That's upgrading them a lot. But it still seems like the stats say they're a team that's about to fall off. I think some of the stuff that's going well, like Mintyukov's sick, but I don't think he's going to be a top defender, which is basically playing us already. And some sites have Cronin as tied for the Jack Adams favorite. And that seems a little bold to me. I get that it's like the perfect story. It's the narrative we pushed Coyotes and a bunch of others. But like the Canucks are in the exact same boat. And I think they're way more likely to
hold it. Yeah.
And they're lucky right now too. But like I don't really buy this continuing for the Ducks. I think this could be the week that little story hits a snag.
We'll close with the Sharks. They're hosting the Flyers. Philly's coming in as a minus 180 favorite right now. The Sharks plus 150, and the total is 6.5. Not betting San Jose at this number. And I think that if you told me before the season starts that on November 7th, we'd be seeing the Flyers perhaps creeping up to a minus 200 favorite on the road, I'd be like, what on earth has happened? But that's just where the Sharks are at. And it does feel like a little bit of a perfect storm here, where it was obviously that the roster was constructed in a way to tank, and they brought in some veterans who, like, why would Mike Kaufman and Anthony Duclair and these guys who know like they're not going to be around, like they're going to take nights off. Like Mike Kaufman took seasons off. Like it's not like they're not bringing in what the Blackhawks tried to do, right, with like Perry and Foligno and whatever. So I do think like the potential for them just to like throw the white flag on a moment's notice in a game is absolutely there. And you couple that with the lack of talent and the porous goaltending, and that's a recipe for disaster. That said, this team just gave up back-to-back 10-goal efforts. So if there's ever a game where they're gonna just like sell out to keep things tight, it's got to be this one. And that's where I'm looking at some team total unders, maybe for the Flyers. Maybe like, will this game go to overtime? Maybe a correct score like 2-2 or something like that. Because the whole world is, and the ripple effect from that phenomena you talked about, Nick, like the McGregor versus Mayweather kind of bet that comes around every once in a while, that the next time the people who had the FOMO, so everyone who missed that Penguins bet, like you and I, who don't have the wonderful self control that you and I have, which is why we don't bet the Sharks all the time, are gonna be like, okay, how can I get in on the party late? And I think a lot of people are just gonna think Flyers -1.5, -2.5, Flyers over 5 goals, whatever it is. So I'll be trying to go the other way and get cute here, Tim.
It's the way to go, but the number
honestly, though, like I think the numbers are there, right? Like, I actually just think I'm surprised. And I guess that could be a little to your point there, but like,
Carter Hart out, like it's
who knows? Like I'm just giving some weight that I like the Flyers, which is why
they're good. I love them when they have +180 next to their name, not -180 on the road. No matter, like, even if this game happened before Vancouver and Pittsburgh for San Jose, I'd be a little like nervous.
Well, I think the Sharks, like, the interesting thing is, you talked about like how it catches your attention, losing 10-1, 10-2. I 100% agree. But I think the 10-1 game caught their attention.
Right? Like, but they did it twice. I know.
And that's probably why that's only happened once in 60 years or whatever it was, because you lose 10-1, you give up 10 goals, the reaction on the team.
I would have that team. If I was Dave Quinn, I would just show every game from the Devils from 1995 to 2006 and just be like,
you think they should fire Quinn?
No. I'm just saying, just watch these guys and just 1-2-2 trap for the rest of this. At least for this game, because if they give up another 7+, I think I would just.
I agree.
I would just quit. I think everybody should just quit. Like, mercy fire everybody. I don't know what you would do, but my point is, like, I would just, if I was the coaching staff, I would just be, for just this one game only, we're going to try to do our best to turn into the 1997 New Jersey Devils and just gum up the neutral zone, clutch and grab. I don't care what you got to do, but we're not giving up 10 again, which is really, really low bar.
Our colleague Stuckey has a great line and says, when most people think a team is done, that's when you find betting value. You go against everyone saying this team's dead. Well, what if they've let up 10,000 goals in the last 2 games?
Yeah, there's an outlier to every rule.
Right. So that's what I am weighing right now, because I believe in basically everything you just said, Leboff. Like, that is why I'm a gambler, is for this reason right here. This is what makes me happy. I once bet on Buffalo, 20 times in a row during that losing streak. Every single night I went back to the window and bet Buffalo. But this Sharks team, I need a number, I think, longer than what we see right now.
Yeah.
And maybe it keeps getting longer because of what you said, the Philly puck line stuff, the Philly 3-way stuff. So this is at 10:30 on Tuesday, and this isn't the right way to bet, chasing or whatnot, but I think I'm going to wait around. And by the time 10:30 comes, if this line is long enough, I'm going to say, I'm going to hang out on the couch and watch the San Jose Sharks try and win a hockey game. And I'm going to throw a little money on it. Like,
this could be an interesting one too, to just see how it's going and then try to make an assessment.
Yeah.
Like,
God, it's been so, and we bet that we should also be upfront. Like, we bet the Sharks when they lost 10-1 to the Vancouver Canucks.
It's, what?
We got really hyped. We got really hyped about that bet.
Netherlands scored for me.
Yeah, he did score for you.
10-1 goal.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk of, like, should Rick Tocchet have challenged that goal?
Yes, it wouldn't have counted, but I was actually, I know you're a gambler.
Yeah, but
for us.
the point of
You
it,
know,
like
the
we've
game
gotten burned.
respected too in that game. It's the funniest part. Like the first 2 minutes, which is fairly irrelevant,
Yeah.
but Sterling almost scored the first goal of the game, and then it looked okay, and then they get the 4-minute high sticking call, and then the game's over because they can't kill a penalty. And
Yeah, they're not going to be able to
nothing.
escape any adversity.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like that we've given out the Sharks before and looked like idiots, and I'm sure that there were people listening to this podcast who heard that and were like, I'm never listening to these three idiots ever again.
I'd rather lose that than say like a minus 250 favor to smash and they lose by 2.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so we're not afraid. My point is, we're not afraid to go to this team. So if you are like a glutton for punishment and you just want to be a lot, like maybe if Sharks first period here, because you'd imagine that they'd try to start hot. Sharks to score first.
It should be plus 3.5 first period.
Yeah,
the way it's been going.
God, they're so much fun. This is gonna be so much. And you said it, Tim. Like, this is the best part about being a gambler. Everyone's having the same conversation on the mainstream like hockey news podcast. Like, this Sharks team's historically bad. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And as bettors, you're like, how do I play this? Like, what's the pencil and paper handicapping? You know, at the racetrack, you got the daily racing form in front of you with the San Jose Sharks file in front of you, like trying to figure out how to handicap them. Because we've never seen anything like it. So trying to figure it out, like the markets haven't ever seen anything like it either. So like there's something to be, and maybe it is as simple as what Nick's point earlier was, which was just bet against them. So
we're gonna have to bet this team. Like,
yeah.
Sunday.
We're already looking ahead 6 days to when they play.
I think 640 is a decent number.
Yeah, it's a great number.
Like, I think there's a good chance they get there. Like, I get that it's not as good as it sounds once you parlay the 3 losses and then they have to win that game. But and then the other one, I like Morgan Frost. I think he's been playing great. People who follow me in the app know I think we got screwed on Friday because they took away his assist on what I don't think was possession at all. I reread the rule and I still think they screwed us. Anyways, he could have had 5 assists in the last 2 games. He is absolutely dealing. I mean, he might score, so I'm just afraid to go off that. You could also split on goal and assist. I think if Couturier remains out and he continues to get the roles he has, I specifically like it more with Couturier out, not even just because it does change the amount of ice he gets, but I really think it puts in a place where Torts won't just be like he, held one puck for half a second too long. He's going to be benched for the rest of the game, which seems to be where he's at with Frost. And then the other thing is the number might be like minus 140 when it's been plus 150 versus actual teams. So that plays into it a bit as well. Cause like we said, we're maybe not as sure the Sharks are going to give up 5 as the market might be. So those are all relevant, but I could definitely see myself not being able to pass on that again.
As we've spent 25 minutes on the San Jose Sharks, I also just want to throw in that it would be so great. You can just close your eyes and see it in your head, waking up on Wednesday morning and seeing an all-time Tortorella freak out after this team loses to San Jose. I think he's been pretty mild, he's
They've
really
been playing really good.
Yeah, but he's been mild and he's been mild mannered. He's been friendly with all the media interviews on the bench, and his zip ups, and like he's he's here for the rebuild. He gets it, and I think we could see the switch flip. I would love it. That'd be perfect.
If that happened, I'd just be salivating about the Ducks game on Friday, because I'm already thinking like I think Philly is playing better hockey than the Ducks. I know not many people would agree with that, but so just thinking about where that number could be is getting me excited.
Okay. Enough about the Sharks. We'll be dedicating 20 minutes a night to the Sharks. It seems like I just can't stop thinking about this team. Onto the best bets for Tuesday, November the 7th. Tim, you can get us started here.
Yes, the Winnipeg Jets. It's in the minus 120 range against the St. Louis Blues. This, to me, I'm not a fan of this Blues team. I think this Blues team sucks, frankly. And the Winnipeg Jets, when you get Hellerbuck in net, I just have this rated as bet, I just have the rating is better. I think the Jets should be almost in the minus 150 range. I do not think highly of the St. Louis Blues at all.
Yeah, I like the Jets here to like minus 130. St. Louis getting results because Hofer and Binnington have been good, and the underlying stuff doesn't look good. I do think that St. Louis maybe is going to have a little bit more punch than I expected in situations where they're a bigger dog. But in this spot, I like the Jets. I think a couple tiers ahead of St. Louis right now. Nick, Jets and Blues.
I think Tim handicapped it well. I like it. We've been high on the Jets all day. It looks like the numbers move, or all year. It looks like the numbers moving, which isn't at all surprising because the Blues haven't defended very well. I think the Jets look pretty strong, really. They haven't had too many disappointing performances. So yeah, I definitely like the call with the Jets here.
And not that it matters. Sorry, Leboff. Not that it matters. You can't really do this, but like this is a Jets team that plays like strong with Vegas. They're just like a step below what Vegas can do. Like I think very highly of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
I just think that they don't have like enough to put them in a tier 1, like tier 1A, 1B range, but they're better than the St. Louis Blues.
Well, and I think the main thing that's just kind of holding them back right now is Hellbuck's not really going. Not going like you'd expect at all. He's been okay, but he's not been himself. And they've had some tough losses. So yeah, I agree. I think this is just a good team to buy on right now.
And they've been taking steam like every day, every game day. It seems like the market's coming in on Winnipeg. Something also to keep in mind. They closed plus 114-ish against Vegas. So yeah, this number looks a little cheap when you adjust.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. That was a lot, and I think it happened again on in their last game too.
Yeah, Leboff, I'm one of those guys steaming him.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in that group.
the Tim money's showing up. All the money he's won on all the money he wins on the Sharks, he just lumps it right onto the Jets. For me, my favorite bet is another underdog. I like the Habs catching Tampa on the second night of a back-to-back in Montreal. The Habs are plus 136 right now. I think that number will likely take some money. I would play them down to 125 because I think we're going to see Matt Tompkins for Tampa. Jonas Johansson's playing against the Leafs on Monday night. Additionally, it's hard to say letdowns, like there's letdown spots in the NHL. I'm sure that there are, and if people want to disagree with me, I'm sure with that. But if there was to be one, I don't think that you could argue that this is probably as close as you can get for Tampa. They've played Toronto in 2 playoffs in a row. They lost to the Leafs in a game that they gave away with a big lead. Toronto was really good in that game, but they choked away a lead already earlier this season, and they're catching Toronto at like a very vulnerable time for the Leafs. So I could totally see Tampa getting that win in Toronto, and then the next night coming out a little flat against Montreal. And the numbers just, I mean, that's intangible stuff. The tangible stuff is Tampa's numbers just still aren't there yet, then defensively especially. And that's dangerous against a Habs team that is clinical and shown that last year, and they're scrappy. So with the expected start for Tompkins, I like the Habs here, Nick.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Habs are a good play. I like the over as my favorite play just because I think both are good. But like you said, Tompkins, that's a needle mover. Like this is not an NHL goaltender. He hasn't shown anything to indicate that. I think just fading him is a good strategy here. I think this total could get to 7. And like you said, the Lightning haven't defended really well at all. I fully agree with that. I think outside of like the first 2 periods of the Nashville game, it's been more or less pretty inconsistent. And, it's not great to count on the Canadiens scoring, but I think there's enough argument as to why they can. But I don't think they're defending great at all, like the Habs, right? They're basically getting the best goaltending in the league. I think I saw at one point they did have the best save percentage in the league. I don't know if that's changed, but they're right there. And they did like almost the same thing last year, right? When they were getting held up early by like incredible goaltending.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
The Sam Montembeau coming out party.
Like they're second in expected goals against per 60. That looks entirely fair to me. Like we've been saying this, and I stand by it. I don't really think like it's starting to go in against them. I actually thought they were catching the Blues in a good spot Saturday, and that's a team we do not think highly of. So yeah, it feels like one that could definitely get over because the Lightning should have to score their share here, and I think they can on Montreal, but they're defending very not good, and they've got Tompkins back there, which makes it tough. So it seems like a lot of avenues for it to get up there.
Yeah,
Tim?
I think this is all kind of kind of correlated. I'm also on the over as well. I already hit it. And that's because, I saw Tampa Bay play against Columbus in the building last Thursday. Tampa, for a team that has their star goaltender out, they played some uninspired hockey. They just seem like, in that game, especially, and if we've seen it at times too with this Tampa team, in terms of letting up chances to these goalies, like they just look disinterested at times, and kind of a team that knows that they just need a ticket into the playoffs, and once Vasi comes back, maybe they'll roll. But it's correlated in the fact that we think we're leaning Montreal in this game, or I'm leaning Montreal along with Leboff. And I think the way it gets there is with an over as well. Tampa Bay is too good to not score to get their fair share. So that's why I'm on the over here as well. It's think about it, this power, like you're watching freaking Kucherov, man. This guy, like he's out there playing shinny, and then he just will just
nasty.
wire one. He's so
he's so
sick.
good. So
And it's in Montreal also too. Coming back from a 3-game road trip, they lost all 3 games. So usually I'm like the fade spot on the classic when they come on back from a road trip, but I think you'll get an inspired effort back at home at Center Bell.
All right, Nick, you can take us home here with your favorite bet.
Yes, my favorite bet is I like the Avs to anything. If you can get better than -175, I think the money line here is good play. I know it's going to shock some people who I don't even know if the numbers will be out there too. I should know. I just don't think the odds makers are processing enough quickly here. The Devils without Heischer and Hughes, that's what makes them an elite team, right? Like they're 1-2 punch down the middle. You could arguably that's probably second to just the Oil, right? So maybe not even that, the way teams are actually going this year. So like if you take both of those guys out of the picture, they have lots of talent to help fill in. But I still think that moves the needle a lot. Don't hate the spot with the Avalanche just getting absolutely humiliated too. So I think this number should just be bigger. I love the Devils this year, but it's just you take away their like 2 most important pieces. It seems like that's quite a bit of credit to have anything under -170.
Yeah, I actually think that's a pretty fair way to look at it too. Is if this was the Oilers taking on the Avalanche, and the Oilers were without McDavid and Draisaitl, and I get that maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but
yeah, I mean,
what's
the only difference is the Devils have way better replacement level.
But I think, you get the point, right? Like the kind of like the logic here is that's why this number shouldn't really jar you as much as you might think when you see that.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the fact that there's places that open this at -160 is kind of a big shout out to how good the Devils are, I'd say.
Yeah,
because they're facing on the road like one of the best teams in the league, and they're priced that closely without their top 2 centers.
Yeah, I think an Avs look like maybe some alt spreads or something too is fun with the way the Devils goaltending can be. Tim, anything on you Avs and Devils before we get out of here?
Yeah, I hit the Avalanche as well. You laid it out perfectly. Also, this last game of this 4-game road trip for New Jersey, when you're missing 2 key players like that, I see kind of scheduled loss here, especially with Colorado coming off that tough loss to Vegas, a big loss to Vegas. The Devils just make too many mistakes for a Colorado team that can absolutely go up and down the ice with them. I see Colorado here, and I like what you said. I'm probably going to look at 3-way, look at puck line. I think, Devils are in a really tough spot here.
They are. All right, that will do it for this episode of Line Change. We will be back to preview Wednesday, and then we'll be back again to preview on Thursday. Nick, have fun at the Mullet. Get our Coyotes across the line. If you need a refresher off the top, we liked the Wings and the Sabres as our underdogs, and then the best bets came in on the Avalanche against the Devils, the Jets against the Blues, and the Montreal Canadiens. against the Tampa Bay Lightning. For Tim Kalinowski and Nick Martin, I'm Michael Leboff. We will see you next time.